No, actually, the diamond is
All right, it's time to get started. Good evening, everyone. How are you doing tonight?
Good.
Sleepy, yeah. We have an observation tonight by Ed Messervis, for those of you who don't know Ed.
Hi.
All right, so
I have to watch Danny, so I don't really do anything, so don't worry about it.
first question, however, or first reminder, I hope no one has any drinks in the classroom tonight. Okay? All right, with this out of the way, then we can get started. So tonight we're going to begin covering chapter 8. I think for chapter 8 we're going to need to take 2 sessions. The way it looks like we're going to be able to split it will be, tonight we're going to cover the concept of loops. So how do we make code repeat multiple times with a Python structure, which is a loop. And there are several different types of loops we're going to discuss. So we have already encountered the definite loop, which is the kind of loop we create with a for structure. But we also have an indefinite loop when we don't know how many times the iteration is to go. And we are also going to learn another type of loop, which is called a Sentinel loop, where you use a terminator to end your loop and then proceed with the code. And we're going to talk about Boolean expressions and Boolean algebra on Thursday. Tonight, in addition to the lecture, we're going to create as many versions as we have time to with a program that computes the average. So if you have a certain sum, and then the sum is inputted a certain number of times, what is the average result? And we're going to use different types of loops which will progressively enhance to make those calculations. Brian is out tonight. He's not going to make it, but we have John here with our wonderful TA, and so let's get started. Oh, actually, one other point. I had a couple questions about the homework already, so we will have some part of the class, some portion of the class is a lab hour. And I don't know if it will be an hour, but the lab segment. And during this time, remind me to look at your, I imagine smiley faces is what you're working on right now, your next homework, right? Okay. Yeah.
Oh no, sorry. I saw the word.
There is one other type of loop we're going to talk about, and this is definite loop. Can I have everyone's attention? Thank you. Do you remember using the for loop in the previous class session? So what kind of exercise you would do with the for loop? Anyone? We have used loops in a few different situations, including potentially you might have used to a list of strings and then print them out. So this is one I remember, but we use it also to illustrate how the range worked. So for a number in a certain range, and then the loop will repeat as many times as the number specified in the range. Right? All right. So this is the syntax, the formal syntax for the for loop. We have a for, and then we have a placeholder variable in a sequence, followed by a required column. And then we have the indentation serving as marker for the body of the loop. And everything that is indented is going to be part of the loop. A line of code that is flush with the for is going to fall outside of the loop, and it will execute after the loop is finished. And the variable for the index can be named anything. Commonly it will be named I, but it could be named anything you like. And then it will continue executing as long as we are still in the numbers within the sequence, after which it will drop out of it. So let's talk about how we can use this knowledge to write a program where we compute the average of a series of numbers. The numbers will be provided by the user. And we want to make it so that we're not limited by saying you can only enter 3 numbers or 5 numbers, but rather make it flexible as far as what is the size, the set rather of the numbers. We already know some things we can use to make this loop work. The first one is that if we have a series of numbers, then we know that we can use a loop. And so if we have n numbers, if the user enters n, can we use n in the loop? Yes, we certainly could, right? The value of n would be set by the user, and then we can use it as the range, and this would work. And what else do we know? We already know the accumulator pattern. Who remembers what that means? When we say an accumulator, do you remember what this means? Go ahead.
Is it pertaining to like the loop index and how it accumulates success?
Pretty much. And express this in Python. Do you remember? The I variable would be how we keep track within the loop, but for the accumulator, we would use for example, a plus equal. Because what we're doing is instead of replacing the variable, so if we just use the equal, we would replace each instance of the variable to the loop. But we don't do this. So plus equal adds to the existing value rather than override it. And that's what we mean by the accumulator pattern. The example we did, or we looked at anyway, was the one with calculating the interest rate for, I believe, 10 years. Mm-hmm. And so what you have to do is you have to keep on accumulating the principal plus the interest for 10 years, and then you leave the loop and print out the result. So that's what we know. And we know that we need to have a count of numbers such as n. We start with initializing the sum with 0. We're going to loop n times because that's how many numbers there are. We're going to input a number for such as x, and then keep adding it to the sum, which is the accumulator pattern, and then output the average of the sum over the count of numbers. Does this make sense, logically speaking? All right. Let's code the program together. So this will be our first instance of creating a average calculating program. And it's the least flexible, but we'll start here. Please open your idle. Start magnifying. And save as. So you don't want to do this in the shell. You want to save this program. Save it as average1.py. Right, so the first thing is always add a comment, average1.py, and then actually, so let me finish this, and then we describe what it does. calculate the average of numbers. Then we define our main. What do you think is the first step? If you don't look up, don't look up the answer, but what would be the first step? What is the first thing we need to do?
Get an input.
Get the input.
Yeah.
So let's get the input, and how do we do this? Well, we need to store the input somewhere, so we declare a variable n, and then we ask the user input, how many numbers do you have? Is it going to work? Are we good now? What else do we need to do here? We need to convert this to a number, to an int.
Yeah.
So we're going to cast the input, which comes in as a string, to an int. And we can do it, as someone mentioned, we can use eval or int. So I'll use int. And then we need to declare our variable total. And we're going to declare total as a float rather than an int, so that when we do division, we can get back a float rather than an int. So that's why we're doing this 0.0 here. All right. And then we have a loop for I use a magnifier, but I can zoom in. This is not big enough.
Oh, I'm just saying that this.
Okay, thank you much. To be honest, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a new projector, so.
Okay. That must be much better in the back.
A little better? No?
Thank you.
So you can zoom back
Got it.
out.
Thank you. All right, and then we're going to add a loop.
Can you repeat why is 0.0 on the total?
0.0 because we're going to be dividing total that is with a float.
Okay.
When we see the result, it's going to make sense.
Okay.
If we declare it as an int, it will not divide properly.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Okay, so for I in range of n, right? So however many times the user said they want numbers, this is going to be the range of our loop. Does this make sense? Right. And then column, and then inside the loop, we're going to declare an x, which is equal to a float of input, enter a number, so here we want to use a float. So we're using the int for counter, but otherwise we're using here. And then inside, we're going to ask them as many times as they specified, enter a number. Once they enter the number, then we're going to use the accumulator to say the total is equal to, starting with 0, the total plus with 1 together. And that's what we have to have inside our loop. So then we need to print, and the printing will be done outside the loop. We don't want to print every time. So we'll do print the average of the numbers is, and we're going to divide the total by the number of numbers, which is n. Right. And then we need one more thing here, which hopefully everyone knows what else we need. We need to call the main.
You have to convert the total divided by n into a string.
No, it's just going to. Let's test this out. if it works as it is. Okay, so it's compiling for me, and we need to make sure it works for everyone. So let's say we have 3 numbers. I need to add this little space here, but I can fix that in a moment. All right, so how about 3, 4, and 6? Average is 0.3. Okay. So I need to add a little space here to fix this formatting issue. And the reason we wanted to have total to be a float is because in a case like this, the division is not, it's a floating number. The result is a floating number, and by declaring the float, the total is a float, we have a float is the result. All right, so let's make sure this is working for everyone. And do you have any questions on this example? What do you want to
The code.
do? Sure.
I think it's the same numbers like the people on this.
You have 2 equals first. So,
Yeah.
I'm surprised. Okay, any questions? Okay. Is this working for you?
So I just haven't run yet.
Just move the main one indent to the left, please. You have some text there? Can you run it again?
I call you have to call me. Oh, there's something wrong. This is invalid. So you have to say okay and go back and fix it. You give me the column. Yeah, there's a column after the not the other column.
Let me zoom
That
out.
should be good. So now Control S. Just Control S because you already have to. And then run. So now, yeah.
So this was version 1. And the drawback of the program we just did was that we had to ask the user ahead of time how many numbers do you want. So it's not flexible in this sense. So what can we do differently? Well, and by the way, the for loop we just did was an example of a definite loop because we know how many times it will run. What we could do instead is we could use something else called an indefinite loop where you don't have to know ahead of time how many times the loop needs to run. So is there a way to do this? Yes, we can't use a definite loop. However, we can use an indefinite loop to make this work. The indefinite loop is the while loop, right? So the while loop is another way in which we repeat the same task over and over and over. And this is the general syntax. So you have while a certain condition is true. So the condition is going to have to evaluate to one of two values, and they can only be true or false. If the condition is true, then the loop goes in the body of the loop and executes the statements. If the condition is false, the Python never goes inside the loop, it will skip over it. Okay? So condition is going to be what we call a Boolean expression. The same way as we used in the if statement. If the grade is equal to 3, for example, then we print C and so on. And then you have a sequence of body statements. All right? Does this make sense then? So as long as the condition is true, we execute line by line the body of the loop. Right? And again, what will happen if the condition is false to start with? It won't be executed not even once, it will just skip over. And the other thing to note about the while loop is that the condition is tested on the top of the loop. So before it begins, it will test. So this is called a pre-test loop. Okay, so here is perhaps the simplest possible way to illustrate the while loop, and let's call this with our shell in idle and see the result. Let me magnify this. Hang on. So from the shell, we're just going to run I equals to 0. We have to give it a starting condition. And while I is less than or equal to 10. And again, I is less than or equal to 10 is a Boolean expression. It can only be true or false, right? Colon as usual. And then the body of the loop will be print I. And here is the important part. With the while loop, we have to change the counter inside the loop. Otherwise, we're going to end up with an infinite loop. So I is equal to I plus 1. It's going to increment the counter. And then if you run this little snippet of code, you should get the output. Since we're ending with less than or equal to 10, is going to also include 10 in our loop. Very important to add a statement that will change your counter, because the counter doesn't change. It doesn't have ranges with a for loop, so you have to change it in the body of the while loop. Is this working for everyone? All right, let's refresh our minds and do the same with a for loop. So with the for loop, the syntax will be different. So we'll have for I in range of 11, print I. And do you remember why using 11 here?
Because 0 was counted.
Because 0 was counted, yes, and also because the range does not include the ending digit itself in Python. So it doesn't include the 11 itself, by definition. Okay, so which one do you like better? Do you have a preference at all, or
While,
you like the while better? Why is that?
because it has a condition. I don't know, it's more reliable, I feel.
Yeah, I guess I can see your point. It's more clear what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So let's get out of the shell. Let's also get out of the magnifier.
Is it the magnification on the actual?
Maybe I did magnify this. Oh yeah. I didn't think it would, but I guess it did. So I did that. Okay. Alright. Also, one difference to note is if you're using the while loop, you must initialize the variable that is going to be the counter outside of the while loop. So that's why we had I equals 0 at the top of it. Whereas with the for loop, this is going to be handled for you. All right, and it's very common to have programming errors resulting from a while loop, as for example here. So what is wrong with this snippet of code?
Doesn't have the accumulator.
Christina?
It doesn't have the accumulator, or whatever it is you call it at the end.
The counter.
The counter.
It doesn't have the counter, and therefore it will run indefinitely. Infinitely. Let's not confuse us because we're using indefinite for something else. So it's going to run infinitely, or until it runs out of resources, until our computer crashes. Okay, so this is the example of an infinite loop, and you don't want to create one of those. But if you sometimes happen to create it, as certainly I have, what can you do? You can try to get out with Control-C, Control-Delete, and this is for Windows, or if none of these work, you might need to even reset your computer system, right? Because to keep on using up resources. So it turns out that the indefinite loop is well suited for writing interactive loops. And so let's take a look what we can do to change up our program. And instead of using a for loop, to use an interactive while loop. And what we can do is we can ask, instead of asking the user ahead of time, how many numbers do you have? What we can do now is enhance the program a little bit and say, after each number the user entered, we'll ask, would you like to enter another number? And if they say yes, then we will go, this will be a true statement, and we will go through the loop again, right? So we're going to set our more data variable to yes to start with. We want to start. And while more data is yes, we're going to go into the loop and then get the next data item, process it. And then at the end of the while loop, we ask the user again, do you have more, would you like to enter more data? And this will be the second example we do. Average 2 is an enhancement to the previous solution for averages. So please again start a new file. Average 2. It's a little fuzzy, isn't it? Is the projector fuzzy? Or is it
Yeah.
me?
It's fuzzy.
This is how it is, and this is, that's how
It
it
needs
is.
to be focused, you're not sure exactly.
We can't do this right now, so I guess we have to, if you can't see it,
If-
just let me know.
If the projector's zoomed in, you still might have to like use that magnifier like on the PC. Yes.
Is it less fuzzy if we use magnifier, do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's try that. Too many tools. So let's try magnifying. All right, yeah, this is better. Interesting. Okay. So let's start a new file. Save as have2.py. And this will be our average 2, version 2. Oh, sorry. Let's see, where is it? Thank you. Okay. Version 2. Compute the average. All right. So as always, we begin with main. Declare variables. We're going to have a total. We're going to have a count. And now we're going to have a new variable, more data. And we're going to set it to a string. Yes. So that we can go inside the loop at least once, because now we're going to check while more data. But here is what we're going to do. We're going to use this as a string list so that we can use the index. So we can say more data of 0 is equal to yes. So it's a double equal. And here is the thing we can do. We now can say y instead of yes. And this will allow us a little bit of flexibility so that if the user enters yes or just y, it will accept both. So that's a nice little enhancement. So while more data of index 0, which is the yes, is equal to y, then x is going to equal to a float of input, enter a number, the total will be now total plus x, the count will be count plus 1, and more data is going to equal to we have to get input from the user to know what the more data is going to equal next. So it's going to be, do you have more numbers? Yes or no? And this is a string, so we don't need to convert it to anything else. Then we print. The average of the numbers is total divided by count. Called main. Let's test this out, and then make sure it works for everyone. So enter a number 5. Do we have any more? Let me close this actually and do this again. Okay. Do we have more numbers? Yes. 3 or 4. Y. 6. Yes. 6 or I guess 7. And then no. And then when you say no, the loop will no longer evaluate. The condition of the loop will no longer evaluate is true, and therefore we're going to exit the loop and print out the result. Okay, so again, let's make sure this works for everyone. Any questions? Did you see how we enhanced our program from the previous iteration? Right, so we made some changes here. It's become more flexible.
More data input recognizing called.
6.
It's ignoring, but actually it was doing it's ignoring the fact that it's not. That's well. Yeah. It doesn't actually check if it's a no, but as long as it's not a yes or a Y, it will terminate.
Oh, so we can put
So you can put anything other than X, other than Y.
Just to test it.
Okay, any questions,
So it's like,
problems? Did it compile? Okay, then.
The more data is the same, as a variable, we decided that that's going to take false automatically, or is it because it's not the while you have to set a variable or yes? Because
Maybe it's a lowercase one.
no, I don't know.
So it's case sensitive, so it wasn't even going to use one.
I think I tried it online, so I don't have my value right now, but I can't do that.
Yeah, I will
All right.
Online, so it's-
Any other
Today,
questions, you guys? Oh wait, Mike, you have a question? Or?
No, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. So this was an example of an interactive loop.
Here?
It's too magnified, maybe to here. Next type of loop we're going to discuss is called a Sentinel loop. And the way the Sentinel loop works is you have to tell it a special value to signal that the loop is going to end. So it's going to look for this particular value and then has a clue that that's the end of the loop. And we call this type of value a sentinel. So what it means is that if you have, for example, with the grades, your sentinel should not be a number between 0 and 100 because this will be part of the input that you're processing, so it has to be something else. So what would the pseudocode look for this example? We need to get the first data item, and then the loop is going to check something else now. Now we're going to use a not statement to check. As long as the item that was entered is not equal to the sentinel, then we are going to go in the loop, okay? And then we process and get the next item. So you can see how the logic changes because of that. We're now checking if something is not equal to something else, and if that evaluates to true, then we go into the loop. And if the first entered or item is the sentinel, then we're not even going to go into the loop. Right? Also another term for you, if you like. If you, when you initialize a number before the loop, you're going to call this a priming ring. And this is a value that is initialized before the process begins. Okay. And so if we're again looking at the average test scores, then in this case, a negative number, do you think it's a percent? Not. A negative number? I think so. Yeah, we should be able to use. We don't have negative scores. We start with 0. And this brings us to the third example. The third way in which we're going to enhance our average program. Excuse me. So again, let's turn over to idle, start a new program. This will be average 3. Average 3 or 3y. And this will be version 3 of the average program. So we start with the def main. Initialize the count, the total, sorry, the total and the count. And then X will be the number entered by the user. So we're going to convert it to a float, input, enter a number, negative to quit. And I need to close the paren here. And now the check is going to be while X is greater than or equal to what? To 0. Okay? So this is how we check that the number entered is not negative. Total is equal to total plus X. Count is equal to count plus 1. And X is equal to float of input. And again, we have to ask the same, the same question at the end, right? Enter a number, negative, quit, because this is how we're going to change our condition. And print. Total over count. And then name. Let's try this out. All right, so 4, 67, 45, negative 13. And this appears to work as intended. Let me try something here. What if we say count plus plus, because we're incrementing by 1, and in other languages we can do plus plus. So let's see if this works in Python. And it turns out that it does not. So Python doesn't have the plus plus increment as in other languages. So that's why we have to use instead count plus one, in case you're wondering. Because usually if there's a plus plus, we prefer to use plus plus, not in Python. All right? Again, let's make sure this program works for everyone. Do you have any questions? Is this all clear? All right. Try entering the first number that you enter when you're testing your program, make it a negative to verify that we should just drop out of the loop if you make it negative to the one. We didn't handle this. Right. So we have not handled some errors since making it divide by zero. Yeah, so if you make it negative, we would need to enhance the program. Right now, it's dividing by zero and it's throwing an error. But it's not going in the loop. All right. Any questions? No? No? Is it working here? Yeah, this is expected. We're talking about count is we could set it to be zero, so this is why it's in there. All right. Let's see what else can we enhance here. And so this program is great, but then the question is, what if we needed to average positive and negative numbers? Right? Then we can't use the current version of the program anymore. But we still could use the sentinels as long as the sentinel is not a number. And how could we, Christina, yes, please.
Although, couldn't you just make that the axis between?
Should I go back here? Let's see. Should we look at the code? Or?
Well, but can't you just change that issue, the step number 2 issue, by just changing the while x is less than?
Well, if you wanted to,
Format it so it includes.
you could, but what the question now is, what if we wanted to add negative numbers? Maybe it's not test scores, but something else. And you could not, exactly. Right, exactly. So you could not do that. But what we could do is, what if we consider making not a number, but a string or a character as our sentinel? For example, an empty string. Okay, so what do that algorithm or pseudocode look like? We initialize our sum and count as before, and then input the data item as a string. While the string is not empty, so we can check not equal to empty, we're going to convert the input from the user to a number, and then continue with the same steps as we had done before. And then input next data item as a string, output, right? So this type of program, if we wanted to input the data as a string, that would work, but we would have to do the work of converting the string to an integer. And we can do that. That's not a problem. And this brings us to the fourth enhancement of the program. There are only 7 enhancements, by the way. So this will be, we are on average 4 now, right, John? Yeah, I believe so as well. Average 4 QI versions. version version 3 since I started with 0 of average program. And again, we have our main total. And then we are going to ask the user to input a string and store it in a string, so no conversion there. Enter a number and enter to quit. So we decided that the way we're going to test this is while the X string does not equal, so exclamation mark for does not, for logical not equal, an empty string. Then we're going to go in the loop. And now we're going to convert the string to a float. And from here on, the program continues for the most part the same until the last line, right? So the total is going to equal again total plus 1. So it was X count equals count plus 1. Then we ask the user again, input, enter the number, enter to quit. And we print the average. The numbers is total over count. Take this out. I think I have never typed without making errors until tonight. Well, when I talk.
Oh, gotcha.
All right. It's hard to talk in type. Okay, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and enter. And apparently our average is 7. I'm gonna make sure this works for everyone, and do you guys have any questions? Are we clear why we're converting the string to a float? We have to give a number otherwise. We'll arithmetic. Okay.
Skip that form.
Do you know that by default, I get students who can't see the screen well, and what they like to do is they bring up the YouTube video, which is getting broadcast right now, and you can put the YouTube video as your background. Just go to YouTube and search for Sunny Merit, and that should be going live right now. If that's easier for you.
Very south. Very south
Now
of
you
the
can record
Mexico.
it.
It's not
All right, any questions? No?
Not too far from America.
Well, it seems like loops are easy for you, for this group.
Yeah.
Of course, we are using snippets, so it will become more complex when you have to incorporate it into something else. Right? We're not there yet. In this case, I think we can take our first break now, and then we'll do a couple more, 3 more examples, and the rest of the class will be Open line. All right, let's take a 10 minutes.
Cool.
And,
Do you notice?
if you're available, I'd like to look through
Oh, you know what? I haven't checked it out yet.
Okay.
Okay, but you should talk to me about it.
All right, let me get some snacks.
Oh no.
Yeah, let me.
Do you wanna go outside?
I'm trying not to. I mean, it's just harder. Did you do the three smiley faces on your own, or did you get help?
No, on my own, but the problem is that I get more than 3.
You didn't reference anything, you did own.
Because I did loop in loop, loop inside the loop. And because I get more.
It's,
How you go from
well, let me just tell you, I worked 6 hours, on Monday, I worked 6 hours. I was doing everything I could just from my own brain, using X and Y's, and then doing a percentage of X or Y for the eyes, and nothing I did was working. So I was looking for the surveillance center, and the guy looked it up online. I had to know this was, and it was the entire code. And I was like, I'm not going to do that, it's not working. But so what I did, I just part of it, and I looked at it, understood some of it, and then I adopted some of it, and I switched some of it. So this is not entirely how I would do it. So I worked, it's not looping, there's no looping. It's just 3 distinct.
oh, yeah, but it's not the task.
Looping, I don't know.
Because the task is we do this like making eyes. It is like a sub function in the notepad.
No, I have that all up there. But what it doesn't do, the main, it calls this function there. So it isn't, it's calling another function, but
yeah.
there's no loop.
Oh, no, probably it's.
No, I don't know if it has to be a loop, but I couldn't figure that last part out, nor for the 2 that was working. So
Probably it's not with the units. Maybe.
if you look out here, because I go to Google or just search Python interface, and I don't do this because it's not my work. I've always been doing things I suppose she could have done, this was a late reading, right? triangle kind of size. Anyway, it wasn't my work, so I don't know, what is it outside of it? Where does it, how does it end? Oh, you know why? Run this a second. Here, run this in your Python, and you'll see how many different side effects it makes. It makes crazy ones up and down, and all this stuff that I was like, I would have never done that, so I didn't take it.
But, what you want to do now?
I'm working on it right now. I was still trying to understand what this, and now I understand. I'm gonna see if I can move on. I would have never been able to do this on my own without assistance.
Which is good. The language just point, yeah, it's between points.
Yeah, no, I understand. Like I'm trying to, because I'm referencing
Yeah.
I,
And actually,
which goes in for size. But
we need for the first point, x coordinate for one of the eyes.
so that's the outer,
Yeah,
and then
if you go exactly
coordinate for the other,
under the eyes for the second coordinate for the one for the point you use x coordinate for the left eye, and for the eye you always use size plus 0.205 how you like.
however long I want to make it.
And no, it's the long is how
This
long
to
is
this.
x and for the eye
Oh, why
for the y for 2 points is size multiple 0.5 or
Okay, well, I'll see.
0.4, yeah, wherever you like.
Let's see. So I think I have to do this, the X at the left eye for the X here, and the X at the right eye for here, right? You know, the best way for me to do this to practice and see what it gives me, and then I can.
Exactly, and after that to do again.
So, yeah.
I do this. But it is for the x you use the coordinates from 2 eyes. So it will be exactly it will come the line from here to here, and for the y use the coordinates of whatever you want out. But I use size multiple 0.5 something like that.
I'm gonna try that and see what size, just because I want to see what it gives me for both of them. Yeah, I suppose it's the same for both.
Okay, but you have only one eye.
I did the move, the clone and move function.
You didn't do
It's
the
just something it's not supposed to.
Yeah. And then I did the clone. And
Like,
then,
what was the thing I said about?
no, this was something I
Tried
did
my,
before.
okay.
my best.
Yeah.
I mean well.
It's funny, you're like, but you have
Oh,
one eye.
But here's the
Oh, he
But they
means
just-
well.
I want to see what
He
this
means
does,
well. It's
so
like
I
the
learned my
least
mistakes and
glowing review
perspective.
possible. Oh, also, interestingly, and this is
This is recorded. All right, guys, so we have a couple more, 3 more examples. Did anyone look up the very latest election?
Here, can you see?
No,
You
73,
Oh.
73 to 25. Clinton.
I mean, it's
Unfortunately, the Senate. Well, I'm sorry. The Senate is swinging much more to Republicans as more races get decided. It was kind of on like 50-50.
Where are you seeing that?
I said unfortunately, my apologies.
Oh,
538.
538. Okay.
Okay, so we did a Sentinel loop where now we will use an empty string as our Sentinel. And then this is all great. So we have a couple more examples which are even better because instead of having the user enter digit after digit, a more easy way to handle this situation is to actually get the input from a text file. I mean, sometimes you need user input, but what if we just get a text file and our program will just read from the text file? And let's make this happen because we know that it's very easy to work with files in Python, right? And we can implement the next iteration of our program here with a large data set, right? And that's the other advantage. If you're doing one by one, it will take a long time, but if you have a file, you can put a large data set in it, and then you're good to go. So this brings us to average 5, which will take a text file, and we need to have a text file for this. So let's see. Please, and this seems to always be a problem, I don't know why, but please go into the code, in the folder chapter 8 code, and I'd like you to download the num2.txt and nums.txt. These two files, remember you need to sign in to Google Docs, to Google Drive in order to be able to do this. And then right click and download those files in the same folder as where your Python file will be. Again, this is week 7, chapter 08 code. And to zip them up, so we have to unzip them when we download them. And it's very slow.
Isn't it just edited text?
Yeah, just 2 text files.
And they're very small.
They are very small, but I just would like you to get them so we work from the same files, and this way we don't.
I mean,
Okay. Yeah, they're just a couple, one line of each. One of them with comma, one of them without. So if you have them, then that's great. Otherwise, download them. I guess I should have just put them on my file drive. Because this is taking forever to zip. Let me maybe do this again. Cancel. Is everyone's connection very slow?
No, I just got mine.
Untitled Chapter 8 code.
I'll just have to give this a moment.
So we're trying to
And while this is happening, I just see here an announcement from Lisa that we have a
and then the text file.
Western's graduate program, Western government, I think it's Western's University or College,
Where's the text file?
WGU, they're going to have a computer science master program open house in Bellingham though. So I'm not sure why we're not talking about it. But if you want to go to Bellingham, it's on the 12th from 10 to 2. Am I the only one whose files are not downloaded?
The ones that end in
Yeah, I got mine.
so not the ones that end in PY, but the ones that end in those,
They're still downloading, so it's
Those
just
are-
very slow.
You only
the ones that
So just
end
probably
in
just let it.
TXT. That one.
This one?
Weird.
Yeah.
You can just
The one
download
she
them
says
individually,
text
right?
file,
Yeah,
that's
should be
the TXT. Yeah, both in the same
Well, I
folder
think
where you're
if
being
I'm the only
saving
one, I would grab
all
them
your
from my other machine, but
yeah.
I think other. Who doesn't have the files yet? Just a couple of us? Okay. Let me try one more time here. think I got them now somewhere. Downloads. Alright. Downloading them individually seems to work better. If you want to try this, Geneva.
Just with the text, you have to say add after, because it just opens it right up.
Right. So we should have Alright, take a look while we are waiting for maybe the student to finish up. So this is the first file, just some lines of numbers, a line of numbers rather, and then the numbers 2, the same, except those numbers are now separated with the limit that we're going to use in a later version of the program. Geneva is great. So let's go ahead then and just make sure to save the file you're working with in the same location as the files you downloaded. File new. Average 5. Right.
Yeah.
Or
To do anything
version.
with the winning folder.
So def main, and then now the input will be file name is equal to input. What file are the numbers in? In file is going to equal to, remember we have to open. So open is going to map the file on the hard disk to the object in Python that represents this file. File name, and we want to open it for R reading only. And then from here, the total is going to be 0.0. Count is going to equal to 0. And for a line in file, the total is going to equal to total plus float of line. The count will equal to count plus 1. Then we print. Everything the number is total over count.
Is R just the variable that's into it?
Which one?
R after open, comma, R. Is that just a variable?
No, R is an argument. It can have one of two values. R is for if we only open it for read only,
Okay.
and W for write. So let's try this and see what it does. Oh, I forgot to call them names. Name. And so for this example, you're going to use nums.txt. And then we are told that the average is 25.
And the reason there's float before line is because the actual number is a string.
They're strings, so they store the strings and then we convert it to a float. Exactly. Okay. Is this working for everyone? So next time's lecture is going to be more conceptual because we talk about Boolean algebra, and just so you know, this was pretty hands-on. I think that seems to work best, but sometimes we just have to talk about concepts as well. All right. So what else can we do? Well, what if we wanted to use a Sentinel as part of the reading process in the file? And this is where we're going to use an example where we say as long as we don't have a empty string, then we process the line. Does it handle correctly the case when there is a blank line in the file? Yes, it actually does. Because if you have an empty line, it will still end with a \n, and for the purposes of Python, it will result in the same handling, right? So again, an empty line ends with a new line, and so read line is going to include the new line as part of it. Do you have energy for one more? Let's do this one and then I'll give you lifetime, okay? So this would be average 6, and then maybe we can look at average 7 without typing. Although, actually, I think I would like to do average 7 so we can use the delimiter. Let's see here. All right, I'm going to skip example 6, and I'm going to, and let's do instead example 7, which is the last example, and it's going to show you how to use the delimiter in the second file. Let me show you what this file looks like again, if I can find it here. nums2. All right, so we have, what do you think will be the delimiter in this example? The comma. It will be the comma. And so please start the last project for tonight. And this is the average 7, we're skipping 1. And then we're going to get a file name. What is the file name? And by the way, in the examples we're doing here, it's always assuming that the file is located exactly in the same folder as the program. That's not always the case. And so if you are not storing them in the same place, you would need to account for the path, then this can actually get complicated. Right? What is the file name? But for now, this is fine here. In file is equal to open. File name. And again, we just open it for reading, so R. Total count. And our line is going to equal in file dot read line. Now we're going to check while line does not equal the empty string. And now we're going to update total and count for the values in line. And here is the other thing we're going to demonstrate here. We're demonstrating now a nested loops. So now we're going to have a for loop that resides inside the while loop. In each loop, is going to be a self-contained block of code that executes. So now we're going to say for x str in line.split. We're creating our line by splitting the numbers with the comma. Oh, sorry, it's double quotes. Okay. Total is going to equal to total plus float of xstr. You can see immediately it gets more tricky, I think, when you start using nested loops a little bit, right? So in the inner loop, we only calculate the total and keep count. And then in the outer loop, we also get the next line. All right. Total of the count.
Your in file.read line.
What about it?
In flight.
Oh, thank you, yeah. Very dyslexic computer. And then we call main. Spell this out. So this will be num2.txt, which has the all right.
You didn't say.
I must have saved it. It's very funny. Instead of saving it to the folder I've used for the last 5 times, it wants to go in System32. All right.
Where you put stuff.
That's where you put stuff, right? Of course, Windows System32.
Yeah.
What else should my file be saved? All right. And now, after we resolve this issue, we have a working, the most flexible version. And make sure again this works for everyone. And do you have any questions or anything we didn't hear? So this illustrates again the nested loop where we can nest one loop inside the other, as you can see, right?
Can you again explain the unfile.read line? I know here it's the same, but it returns the next line in the file. So would that be like
So in this case, we only have one line, but then within the line, we break up the line into segments with the comma, and that's what we do. If we have multiple lines, then it will be the second line. In our case, it's going to terminate.
If I actually made a second.
If you made a second line, it should read the second line as well. Try this out. Because it reads it at the end of the line. Any other questions? All right, in this case, you have some time for open lab, and those of you who have questions, I'll come and take a look at what you're working on. Okay,